What's going on, everybody? Stream is live. We got a green light from YouTube. That is something that could be going away anytime soon. Going the way of Alex Jones. Come on, everybody, get on in here. Get on in here. I'm doing my own version of the simultaneous sip here. Only ours doesn't have coffee in it. Come on in. We're going to talk about I wanted to talk about white supremacy today. White supremacy, white nationalism, Nazis, all that kind of stuff. Unite the right to, I think we're kind of missing, everyone is missing the underlying narrative that we should be seeing. Everyone's busy. Everyone's kind of busy pointing fingers at each other saying, hey, I don't like the way you covered that, or I don't like, you didn't talk about this when you covered that. Get in here. We're talking about Charlottesville and white supremacists, Nazis, all that kind of fun stuff. The death of white supremacy, as the stream title suggests. White supremacy is dead. Get in here. Jeremy from the Weekly Narrative here, doing the weekly live stream back after a week off. We took a week off. I say we, but it's just me. I took the week off to go to Portland and Berkeley. And now we're back. And all this fun stuff happened in the news this last weekend. Unite the Right too. That's probably the biggest news, right? Like that Omarosa stuff, I don't really care about. That's just, the White House drama of the week that they're trying to keep everyone distracted with. That'll go away soon. I'm interested in not only what happened over the weekend with the rally, but Pal Gaming, what's up? White supremacy are Antifa. It's a good point you bring up. Yeah. So one of the things that we saw with the Antifa protests overall this weekend, first of all, the response, the size of the Antifa response, the counter protest. I'm sorry, no, not the counter protest, the protest. So there's a rally and a protest. The rally for Unite the Right, which was 20 guys, like mostly older aged, that they had to, bus in from out of town, and probably, a couple hundred cops, and then several hundred protesters, which are your Antifa, your March Against Hate. That's what they called it. They had their March Against Hate. It was their protest against the rally. If it looks like a Nazi and sounds like a Nazi, it's probably Antifa. That's a good point. Ian, what's going on, man? Welcome to the chat. Guys, get in here. We just started. You didn't miss much. We're talking about the death of white supremacy. So we saw a crazy, incomparable size of the protest to the actual rally, and this has been consistent over the past several big rallies / protests that we've seen. For example, the rally in Portland and the rally in Berkeley, both the rally in Berkeley to stop Marxism, the No to Marxism event, was literally like 15 guys. And then you had hundreds of Antifa show up, and, a disproportionate amount of police as well. Portland, same story, but on a bigger scale. There's maybe a couple hundred on the Patriot Prayer side, but then you see, again, several hundred, maybe even close to 1,000 Antifa protesters to the march. So the responses to all of these events, especially the Unite the Right 2, which was 20 guys. 20 guys, does 20 guys really warrant a response of 800 Antifa in black sweaters and hoods and all that in the streets of Washington? Does it? No. But this continues the narrative, and this is what's going to go into my video that I'm making about all these protests, is that the problem that they're protesting, thing, the demon that they're trying to protect everyone else against. You know, they're kind of painting this picture of the worst thing that you can possibly imagine, the worst thing that could happen to the country. It gets taken over by Nazis, right? That's the worst thing that can happen. So this is what they say. They repeat this narrative of, oh, Nazis, white supremacists, Nazis, white supremacists, because they need to get that emotional reaction from you, which is what gets the 1,000 people out on the streets, is emotion. Facts aren't pulling people on the street. It's this emotion, this emotionally charged response. Oh, this is Nazi. I got to go out and I got to protect because I got to save the world from the Nazis. And this is what they say. So you have this. What is the demon that they've come out in response? The Nazis. Now we've seen that not only are these not Nazis. Unite the Right 2 is not even Nazis. Like Jason Kessler, he's a white nationalist. That's not a Nazi. That's not even close to a Nazi. It's completely different. But anything with the word white in it is instantly just, you're a Nazi. And when you look at the way that so I'm trying to paint a bigger picture here. So they show up. There is no white supremacy. There's no Nazis. What happens? Every single time. Berkeley, Portland, San Francisco, and now DC. What happens? No white supremacists, no Nazis. They turn on the police, right? Did you guys saw the video? Or, I'm assuming you guys saw some media from the weekend and the march. But essentially what happened is they started chanting against the police, started saying that the police are all racist. That is one of the actual chants that they were saying. The cops are all racist, or something like that. Same exact narrative in Berkeley. When the 800 protesters weren't allowed into the rallying area to beat up the 15 guys that were rallying. They were held back by the police, and then they started fighting the police. They got tear gassed. They started, crying, "We hate the police." The saying that they love to use is cops and Klan go hand in hand, which I think is hilarious. Because I'm sitting here looking around like, okay, cops and Klan go hand in hand. Okay, it rhymes. It sounds nice, but I'm looking for the Klan. I don't see any. I don't see any Klan members here. I do see some people wearing masks or trying to wear masks, but they're not white. They're black, and they are committing acts of violence on other people. So, yeah, hypocrisy, up and down, left and right. I was trying to think, where have I seen this level of fanaticism and irrationality before? It's the same way that some religious people act. And we're not very religious anymore, I don't think, at least openly, this society in America. But where these kids, because none of these kids had good parenting, they never had any structure. They never went to any kind of competitive sports when they were a kid. They never went to church because they never had any structure, any parenting, any discipline, anything like that. So they never went to church. If they did, maybe they'd realize that that's the exact same thing that they're getting out of being part of this, Antifa group, this anti-fascist group. The exact same thing is what they're getting, what they would get if they went to religion, like, whatever kind of church that they would go to. So the similarities. What are the similarities between religion that controls people and then the Antifa and the communist and the socialist doctrine? Communism and socialism is basically like a modern day religion. What does Crowder always say? Well, it's not a hypothesis, but that's the point that I'm trying to make. So where you see Antifa trying to paint people as Nazis white supremacists. They're trying to put out this grand narrative that the Nazis and the white supremacists are everywhere. They're all surrounding you. It's systemic. Every level of society, they're holding down minorities and people of color, right? They have paint this picture of this grand machine that you can't escape. And if you're one of those minorities, it's probably scary. If you believe that, it's probably terrifying. It has to be terrifying to get people to go out into the streets to fight other people, because that's what it's doing. You implant this emotional idea in someone's head, causes them to go out into the streets and fight other people. It's got to be a strong idea, right? It has to be. Okay, so what does religion do? Or some religion, not all religion. Christianity, for example, to some degree. Not all branches. No, there's a lot of different brands. There's a lot of different flavors, I guess you could say, of Christianity. But if you ask a lot of people what it was, and I've read a lot of this online, you ask them why they started to believe or what motivated them. And a lot of them will say because they were afraid of, afraid of not going to heaven, afraid of going to hell, afraid of damnation, afraid of whatever. So it's not so big anymore, but you used to see these hellfire preachers, brimstone and whatever, hellfire and brimstone, whatever they call them, those preachers that would go on TV and say, basically, if you don't go to church, if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, if you don't do this and this and this, then again, they're going to paint the worst possible scenario. Now, this is religion, so you have a little more creative freedom. You can kind of say whatever you want because it doesn't happen now. It happens later after you die. So there's no real way to verify this. But what they say is, if you don't do this, if you don't follow me, you're going to burn in hell for eternity. Because that's basically, like the worst thing that you can think of, right? I mean, what's worse than that? It's pretty much the worst thing that you can think of. It's a great sales technique because that creates, again, implants this emotional idea in someone's head. They're like, oh my God, whoa, what if that's real? What if I don't go to heaven when I'm dead? Or what if my family went to heaven and I don't? It's the same emotional kind of manipulation to get you to buy into the idea. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Karen, it sounds like a cult. It's exactly what it is, just on a larger scale. And that's really all a cult is. It's just a religion on a small scale. There's a difference between Christianity and Islam. Christianity had reform. Yeah. You didn't get a notification, Grumpy Shih Tzu? That's YouTube, man. Yeah, I know. I sent out a notification on Twitter, but YouTube is not... I mean, come on. We all know YouTube doesn't want me to stream, right? I've already been banned for 90 days for no reason. Straight Sith Male says, that's the New Testament. Even then, some idiots don't understand the writings. I am not Christian, but I know the teachings very well. I grew up with them. I don't know the teachings very well, but I grew up with it. And that was one of the things that motivated me to become Christian or religious. Nowadays the Christians are kind of rebranding themselves. They're not using the word religion anymore because they realize that it's not a good thing. But it was, a fear of hell was a big part of it. And that's exactly the same thing that's happening to these people who are being pulled out into the streets. They're seeing somebody else point to someone and say, Nazi or white supremacist, and what's worse than a Nazi? So they go out and they fight people. They're just being emotionally manipulated on what it's not the same technique necessarily, but it's the same psychological medium, I guess. You know what I mean? It's the same psychological trigger of fear. Fear is a great motivator. That's how you sell. If you ever take a marketing class, what is it? Fear, sex, and one other thing. They're the top 3 motivators for selling. I forgot what it is, but I mean, how better to motivate someone to act in a violent manner towards another person than to just scare the shit out of them. You say, oh, that's a Nazi. And then, they don't say it like that. They say, you're a Nazi. And then they have a sign that says, Nazi scum, get the F out of my city. And then They've seen all these posts on Facebook for months and months and months leading up to the event talking about Nazis and pictures of people that are being doxxed as Nazis or white supremacists that aren't actually Nazis and white supremacists. So they're being fed this constant feed of this bombardment of fear and disillusionment. And then, of course, they're going to go out into the streets with their trash can that they cut in half and they're using as a shield. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same. Am I wrong? Is it not the same mechanism that kind of draws people? I'm trying to paint the picture here. If you're just joining, the general theme is that Antifa, the communist socialist movement, is the new religion of 2018, because none of these kids ever went to church. If they did, maybe they would have had this hole inside of them, this emotional need filled in that manner, but they never did because they don't have parents or structure or anything like that. So that's aspect number one, where they're the same. Aspect number two is that Grumpy Shih Tzu, I got banned. Yeah, I don't know why I got banned. They never told me. Aspect number two, that Antifa and the communists and socialists are the same as religion, is because they use this. Now, you maybe won't see this as much if you don't actually go to these, but I go to these and I've seen this before. I've heard this. One word that you always hear at these protests and like on their Facebook pages is the word solidarity, right? So what does that mean? Solidarity. It's implying, not implying, but they're being explicit about the fact that they're part of a community with shared ideals, right? You always hear that. Oh, we're marching in solidarity for Black Lives Matter. We're marching in solidarity with all of our people of color, with our minorities, with the immigrants. We're marching in solidarity, solidarity this, solidarity that, all the time solidarity. That's one of the biggest and most valuable aspects of religion, organized religion, is that you have a community that has a shared sense of values, a shared set of values. And when you go to church on Sunday and you talk to people, you know, you kind of, you're a little more comfortable with them. You have, because you know they share the same values as you. They're not just another random person. You look at someone at your church differently than you look at just a random person on the street, because you know automatically before we even start a conversation that because they're going to this group, because they're in Antifa, they have the same ideals. You know, I could literally walk up to an Antifa rally, and I almost did this at the last one. I was planning on doing this, but I got thwarted because they ended up saying that they don't want any cameras on the Antifa side, so it would have been a dead giveaway. But I was going to walk up, and I was just going to start a chant. I was going to pretend to be an Antifa. It didn't matter. It didn't matter that they've never seen me before. It didn't matter that, you know, they don't know who I am. It didn't matter that I'm actually just a journalist. I'm not Antifa. I'm not a communist or socialist. But if I just go over there and I say, whose streets? Everyone's going to yell back, our streets. Or, you know, whatever chant I want to do. Because I walk in, they see me, they hear me say this. They know instantly that I have this same set of values. So, solidarity. You could call the white Mexican all the time. Man, you can kind of dip your toes in both pools there. So, okay, so that's aspect number two. Those are the two big ones that I've thought of, and this was off the top of my head just on the way home today, because I was seeing all this coverage, this violent. Here's another one. I just thought of this one. This one's not so much Christianity, but hostility towards non-believers, right? This is a huge one that we've seen a lot just in the past couple days, and you know, for me, it's been a big. I've noticed it and seen it for the past year since I've been doing these videos. But hostility to non-believers. Christianity is not so bad when it comes to that, but I think I can name maybe one or two other religions that share that commonality. So, hostility towards non-believers. What does that mean? That means, and I've mentioned this 1,000 times, if you're not ideologically pure, if you're not pure 100% in their beliefs, in their ideology. For example, I had a conversation with a girl last week in Berkeley. She starts the conversation by coming up to me and saying, hey, who the F are you? yelling at me because I just got done interviewing another girl who walked away from the interview because I asked her a hard question. So she was already hostile, but we found like 10 things in the course of a 15-minute conversation. We found like 10 things that we agree on. Despite that, despite finding 10 things, which is monumental, 10 things, I challenge any of you to go to an Antifa protest and find 10 things that you can have in common with one of those protesters. 10 things, like politically or socially. Find 10 things you have in common, but that's not enough. All right, I for me, like, one thing is enough, and you can always find one thing you have in common with somebody. Always. There's not one single person on this planet you don't have one thing in common with. But I found, like, at least 10 things with this chick. But afterwards, what does she do? She blows up my Twitter. She's sending me messages and stuff saying that, because I support state violence and I support the police, everything that we agreed on, it doesn't matter. Useless. Because we agreed on 9 commandments, but the 10th one we disagreed on. So that's it. I'm out. I'm an enemy. I'm not part of her community. I'm not part of that group. So she has hostility towards me still. You have to have all 10 commandments in common. I'm just using the commandments as an example, but Christianity is not a really good example for this particular idea. Whatever it is in Islam, the 20 tenets of Islam. I don't know anything about Islam. I don't pretend to. The point is, in Christianity, not in Christianity, in religion, if you leave Islam, or if you don't agree with everything, with whatever your local religious leader says, what happens? Do you know what happens, or what the book says about apostates? It's not good. So if you leave the religion, or if you're not part of it, you're either converted by force, or you're killed for being an apostate. The Black Box says, I wouldn't want to find 10 things in common with Antifa. I've seen the violence they commit. They are deranged psychopaths and are the foot soldiers of a civil war. I think you could find some things you have in common. Chad Stevens says, what do you do to prep for covering protests and such? So part of my research and stuff is to make sure that I'm on every social media. One thing that you got to understand is that Antifa and the communists, socialists, and all the anti-capitalists, they love big capitalist social media. Oh my God, they can't get enough. So just go on. I am on Twitter. I'm following every single Antifa and communist group that I know of on the entire West Coast, and even some that aren't even on the West Coast. So I see all these posters and things that they make. I see all the things that they're saying about the protests leading up to it. I see all the Facebook posts doxing the people that are leading the events. I see, the information about the locations that they're going to talk about, where they're going to meet up, what their plans are, what they're going to do. It's they put all of it out there. I don't really understand. I don't think they understand how social media works, but it's all out there for everyone to see. So I dive into that as much as I can, so I know everything. I don't want to be surprised. I want to minimize the amount of surprise that I have. So that's the biggest thing that I do, is I just do my research on the event. But I don't study questions or anything like that. I really just show up and ask questions and see where it goes. Did she complain about the live chat on your video? Yes, that was the girl that was complaining about the live chat on my video. She was on my Twitter saying that my live chat, you guys, by the way, you guys were bad. You were misogynistic. You're making misogynistic comments in chat. And it's like, you kidding me? Have you ever been on the internet before? First of all, I had like 250 followers or viewers during that stream or something like that. A lot of them probably aren't even subscribers to my channel. Some of them are, but people go to those. The main market for the protest videos is people who watch them to watch the protesters get owned, right? That's what you want to see. You want to see them get blown up, owned, Owen Schroyer stomping people, the cuck slayer. You want to see him getting slayed. So of course they're gonna go into it with this mentality of, oh, look at this retard, look at this idiot. But I can't help that. I don't have control over my viewers. You know what I mean? That's just, it's the same kind of mindset where you blame Trump for the fact that he has like 2 white supremacist followers, you know, like 2 white supremacist voters. Like CNN, they went down to Florida or something like that. They found one random racist that was wearing like a Nazi shirt. They found him in a shack on the side of the road. One guy, just like the town exile. Everyone else thought he was an idiot, thought he was a retard. But they do a special, like a 10-minute special on that guy. And then they say, well, look at what Trump's doing to America. That's the narrative anyway. They want you to think that, oh, this is a reflection of everyone. This is a reflection of all of Trump's viewers. It's the same thing the chick was doing. I get it. Yeah, the chat was probably terrible. But guess what? All you have to do to not see the chat is pull up your phone like this and then press the little X button, and then you don't see the chat. You think people don't talk trash about me? I get trash talked about me all the time on the internet. I don't care, because I know I step into the internet, I open the door to the internet, I go in like Tron, and then I'm in, and everything's all geometric, and Daft Punk's over here playing, and there's light cycles going around, and I've accepted the fact that I'm going to get my trash talked about me before I even walked into that door. All right? They know, Daft Punk knows, the light cycles, they know, everyone knows. When you go into the internet, you're going to get trash talked about you. Who is this harlot? LGBT. That was my Berkeley live stream. On the last part of it, I interviewed a chick for about 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and then my battery died. But I had a long conversation with her. I enjoyed the conversation, to be honest. But it's probably a good thing that I couldn't see chat while I was actually in the conversation. But she went back after the fact, looked at the live chat, and then posted on my Twitter that my chat is misogynistic and hateful and all this. So can't help them all. They're just so afraid of being offended. Get over it. So just to recap for anyone who's just joining. Oh, wait a second. Yvette will swing at anything that moves if you're not on their side. Yeah, you're referring to Yvette Falarka, who's a school teacher from Berkeley. She was at Berkeley last weekend, and she was hitting people too, and like kicking them and punching them. Not like a full-on roundhouse Chuck Norris kick, but just like a little trying to like kick your foot, like to get back. I didn't get footage of it, unfortunately, but not like it would have mattered anyway. Just to recap, I went over reasons why Antifa and the communist socialist ideology and the movement is the religion of 2018, or like it's the new religion. We're seeing the creation of a new religion here. And, when we think about seeing new religions being created, we think about it in the traditional sense of, oh, there's going to be a God that they worship. There's going to be a book that they read, and then they're going to go pray at an altar. Okay, the God is Karl Marx. The altar is the streets, and the book is the Communist Manifesto, or whatever Karl Marx's books are. You know what I mean? Like, this is a new religion because they motivate people with fear, just like a lot of religions do. They are not friendly to unbelievers. And what was the second one? Motivate by fear, unfriendly to believers, and I forgot. If I had a producer, he would let me know. Anyway, it's the same as a religion, basically. So expect the same kind of behavior, okay? You're not going to convert these people. You can't try to convert. It's just not going to work. It's like trying to convince a Christian that they're not a Christian, or Islam, a Muslim, that they're not, they don't like Islam. What are your plans for the future of the channel? Chad Stevens with a great question. Chad, I'm going into documentaries, Vice style, weekly narrative style documentaries. We're currently working on my first one. I think it's going to be called, now give me some feedback on the title, because I'm not sure if this is going to be really good or really bad. It's going to be called We Are Nazis. And it's ironic because I'm going to be going to these protests where people say there's a bunch of Nazis and I never find any Nazis. But then I turn it and I twist it to paint the Antifa as Nazis. Huh? What do you think? Like half an hour long documentary, mini documentary. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, I'm trying to, the protest interview stuff it's just not it's not very entertaining anymore. People don't want to talk. They don't want to talk to you. It's rare that I even have a good conversation, and that's the main reason that I go out there. So I'm adapting and overcoming. I'm offended that they're offended. Exactly, Douglas. I could think of 20 different things that I'm offended by on a daily basis. I'm offended by the fact that CNN is even on TV. So where do I march? Just point me in the direction where I need to march. Because I could come up with a lot of things that I'm offended about. But now, here's the difference. I don't have to act out emotionally on everything I'm offended by. Don't say Vice because Vice has no credibility. Yeah, that's true. They don't have any more credibility. I'm talking about Vice like 6 years ago Vice, all right? Not 2018 Vice. 2018 Vice is, oh my God, I just watched a episode they did on incels. Wow. I thought the chick doing the interview was an incel. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. And of course, nobody cared about incels until Toronto happened. Did you see anything about the Islamist training school shooters in New Mexico? It's literally the town I grew up in. Really? Yeah, that's wild. I saw pictures. He had, tire walls and all this stuff set up. It was where's the mainstream media coverage on that? So the mainstream media, tell me why they made this decision. The mainstream media is going to cover 15 guys in a park in Washington, D.C. No coverage for the... Now, just a couple months ago, if I remember correctly, I think there was a school shooting. And it got lots and lots of coverage. But now, they found a training camp for school shootings. No coverage. Why is that? Is there an aspect to the story that I'm missing that might affect how it's covered by mainstream media? Could it... Oh, Grumpy Shih Tzu. Yeah, it's because he's a Muslim. Oh, right. I forgot. Yeah, that's a protected minority. We can't give any negative media coverage to that because then we'd be Islamophobic. We can't even be objective in the news anymore because, well, we all know why. But, and you know who would have covered that a lot though? You know who would have dominated, would have been all over coverage of that, of the school shooter? Who would have been talking about it day and night? You know who would have, but can't anymore on YouTube? Mr. Alex Jones. He would have been all over that because it deserves to be covered, but he obviously doesn't have the chance to do that anymore. And I think that's one of the main reasons why they banned Alex Jones, because they're starting to lose control of the narrative. You can't have a guy with a megaphone right here telling you the sky is blue, and then a guy with the megaphone over here that's actually getting bigger. This guy's megaphone is shrinking. This guy's megaphone is getting bigger. And he's saying, well, that this guy's got chemtrails in it, right? So whose narrative are you going to believe? You know what I mean? Now, it's just a comedic example because he's known as the conspiracy theorist guy, but still, the point stands. He's saying something different than what the mainstream media is saying. You can't have that. Whoever's pulling the levers up top, anyway, can't have that. Signature bail. People in New Mexico released and despised the judge. They were released, really. I got to look into that. I've been watching mostly Antifa stuff coverage lately. I just saw a little bit about the Muslim training school. But yeah, of course, we all know, everyone in here knows, you guys know that they're not going to talk about that because he's a Muslim. and his name, right? You can't even say the guy's name on the news. If you say this guy's name followed by school shooting training camp, oh my God, we're emboldening Islamophobia. That's another one of my favorite words. Next to solidarity. Oh, that was number 2. The point number 2 on the comparison between religion and Antifa. The community, the sense of community. Solidarity and emboldened. 2 of my least favorite words. Such BS words. Alex Jones is batshit crazy, but he has his moments when he's funny. Well, the point is, he's part entertainer. He knows this. His viewers know that. He's part entertainer, right? He's not just a news guy. He's his own thing. He's different. If you turn on Alex Jones thinking that he's... And I'm probably going to get my video taken down because I just said Alex Jones like 4 times. But I'm going to get H3H3'd. You guys know what happened to H3H3? Their live stream got killed because they were showing some footage from InfoWars. But yeah, it's... I lost my train of thought on that one. Here's the funny thing. I got interviewed by Owen Schroyer in Portland, which was cool. Owen Schroyer is one of the guys that got me into doing the protest interviews in the first place. I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't agree with him politically on everything, but I like his style. I like the fact that he's fearless. He goes in, he just challenges people, and he's willing to have an actual conversation if they want to. Most of the time they don't. The only difference between me and him really is I'm not going to shout at people. H3H3 was told it was an error. Yeah. Well, YouTube probably has this gigantic filter set up to where, you know, if it hears or sees any kind of Alex Jones or InfoWars footage being played, it just instantly kills you. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of their filters that they have set up, but they may have had it a little too strong. I doubt that some social justice warrior was sitting in the YouTube offices going through live streams like click, looking for Alex Jones footage. They have the algorithm for the detection in YouTube. I would say it's probably one of Google's greatest intellectual properties, because it is insane what you can do or what they can do with your video. If I have a song, an obscure song that I've never even heard before, playing at like 10% volume in the background, I've had copyright strikes, not copyright strikes, but I've been demonetized on that video because that song is copyrighted. Because some detection algorithm can detect that song playing at 10% volume under me talking constantly, and it'll detect that and demonetize the video. So if they can do that with audio, then of course they can do it with video. You know, it's all automated, completely automated. But yeah, they luckily had their strike reversed. H3H3 had their strike reversed. Unlike me, I never got a strike. I just got banned for 90 days. I don't even know why. I still never got an explanation. No strikes. No community guideline strikes. No copyright strikes. Banned for 90 days. I don't know. And I think at this point, anyone who relies on YouTube for their income is an idiot. It's kind of like using it's the equivalent of taking a busted up, rusted out junker, like $1,000 Toyota Celica or something. It's just the hubcaps are falling off. No bumper. There's no bumper. There's no windows. It's the equivalent of taking that to work every day and relying on that to get to work. Like, no, you don't. You need to step it up, make the necessary change, jump ship, do the necessary thing, get in a nicer car, go to a better platform. Gavin McInnes was banned off of Twitter. Sean Rufus says in chat, and I was just reading about that today. He, for no apparent reason. And now this is now not just Gavin McInnes, but all of the Proud Boys Twitter pages are gone. Every single one. And why? Nobody knows. Now, if you look, Gavin McInnes, he did a free episode of his show, Get Off My Lawn. And he has a screenshot of the message that he got from Twitter. It says, "Hello, you have been suspended from Twitter for the following reasons, blank. No reason. No reason for being suspended." And then it said below it, the usual disclaimer, if you try to create another account, we're going to ban you anyway, so don't even try. That kind of stuff. It's like, okay, so that's human. That is human intervention. That is different from the H3H3 YouTube ban, because H3H3, I would bet that that's an automated thing. The Gavin McInnes banned for blank a reason, that's human intervention, because somebody went through to his account and clicked suspend, clicked duration forever, and then sent the form with a blank reason. Because if it's an automated ban, they put the reason that you got reported for in the first place as the reason for your ban, your suspension, right? Because you can go to Twitter and suspend for, I don't even know what the options are, because I've never suspended anybody because I'm not a snowflake. But let me go here real quick. I'm going to report Timaholic, who replied to my tweet that I was going live. I'm going to report him. So the options are, I'm not interested, it's spam, or it's abusive or harmful. So there you go. If you get enough reports on it's abusive or harmful, then that's probably what the reason is going to be in your suspension, because they don't have enough human beings to go through all of these manually. You get a certain number. This is how video games work. This is how everything pretty much works in the computerized world. You get a certain amount, an algorithm takes that into account. It says, okay, you got this much in this period of time. That's it. You're banned. But the fact that Gavin McInnes and all of the Proud Boys accounts were banned at the same time, that's a human being doing that. Somebody in a boardroom went in and said, all right, we gotta get rid of these Proud Boys. They're dominating on Twitter. They're punching people all over the place. They're getting away with it. Can't have it anymore. They're saying Uru everywhere. They're running around yelling Uru. We don't even know what that means. What does that mean? What does Uru mean? Does anybody know? And then they said, we got to ban him. That's exactly what happened. Almost word for word, that's what happened. Tara, welcome to the chat. Red Pill Libertarian. Uru. Yeah, I've heard that plenty of times. So, somebody asked if I watch Crowder. Occasionally I do watch Crowder. I'm not a huge fan. He has strange breathing patterns. He'll talk and he'll do that. He'll just be like talking and he'll inhale real quick like that. Like he's really pumped up. He's on pre-workout all the time. Like he's just got to go. Like I'm okay. Well, tell me your premise is that you think Nazis are bad, right? Okay. Yeah. It's like, calm down, dude. Relax. I get that you're doing the comedy thing and you're trying to be energetic and funny all the time, but Jesus, dude. He's the Generation Z guy, all those young kids that are hopped up on energy drinks all the time and they got ADD and they're all on Ritalin. They love him. I would love him if I was on energy drinks all the time. And then he kind of tries too hard with his debates and stuff. Jennifer Glenn says, I got a channel strike when I have never uploaded a video. Wow. That is quite the accomplishment. Apparently it was for a playlist. You can't even... Oh, I've heard about that, actually. People were getting strikes for playlists for Alex Jones. So if you had Alex Jones in a playlist, even in your playlist, you were getting strikes on your accounts. Alex Jones didn't get Tommy Robinson. Yeah, but can you imagine if Alex Jones was in that situation, though? If he was in England? Just a little thought experiment, right? Because England is a little bit advanced, a little more advanced than us in terms of the social justice, multiculturalism kind of virus, right? So imagine if Alex Jones was in an environment like that. Can you imagine? Tommy Robinson got messed up by his last little stay in prison there, because he already had PTSD, and we haven't even seen a lot from him. He did an interview on Tucker, and he did a couple other interviews, but he's been probably getting psychological care. I didn't have Alex Jones, but I think it was for Corbett. I don't know who that is, Jennifer, but I wouldn't be surprised if you were getting strikes on your account for just having people on your playlist. So yeah, I saw Grumpy Shih Tzu brings up a good point. Tommy lost 30 pounds in prison. They were showing pictures of him after he got out. I thought they were using pictures of him from like 10 years ago because he looked so skinny. I didn't even think that was him. I thought they were using like old stock photos or something like that. 40 pounds. That's insane. He's not even really that big of a guy. So, you know what I mean? That's very unhealthy to lose that much weight in that short period of time. But I'll keep hitting any questions I see in chat, but I want to continue on with the main idea of the video, and that's that white supremacy is dead. Okay? Anytime anyone brings up the idea, the narrative of white supremacy or white nationalism or Nazis, white supremacy in general, let's just go with that, white supremacy or KKK, just show them a picture of the DC rally. Show them a picture of the 15 guys. That is white supremacy right there. Those aren't even white supremacists. Those are white nationalists. To the retard who doesn't understand anything at all, they might think those are white nationalists, and there might be a few in there. I would guess maybe three to eight of them might consider themselves white supremacists, but they're mostly just white nationalists, which are your kind of Richard Spencer brand of, I just want to secure a future for white children. They don't want to kill black people. They don't want to kill any minorities. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. The point is 15 guys, okay? It was 15 guys for the Mac Daddy, the king of all kings of the white supremacist rallies. That's what we're afraid of? 15 guys that are like all older and like middle age and older. I saw a short clip of them in the train car on the way in. A lot of those guys had, speaking of train cars, a lot of those guys had gray hair. It's like, come on. And that right there is exactly why the media coverage that we've seen was not about that. The media coverage that we've seen was either, oh, look at the giant protest that's forming against the Unite the Right. Look at the March Against Hate. This and that. You didn't see any of the Antifa attacking cops or attacking the journalists. You didn't really see any good shots. And this is funny because I actually went to Google to try to find an image for this stream. I tried to find an image. I saw it earlier in a video, and I have to dig to find this. But if you Google pictures of Unite the Right 2, there are no pictures of the actual rally. These are all pictures of probably old Unite the Right, but I just Googled Unite the Right 2 DC, and if you scroll through, you don't see any pictures of the rally. That's not the Unite the Right 2 rally. That's probably Unite the Right 1 or some other rally. This is not Unite the Right 2. There's a lot of, so these are, a lot of these are news sites. So here you go. See, this is from Vox. This is the #1 result when you search Unite the Right 2 DC rally. Rise up, fight back, Black Lives Matter DC. Why don't they show their actual rally? There's another one. Black Lives Matter. Unite the Right to rally, counter protest. What do we see? All of the protesters, the counter protesters, Black Lives Matter, all your social justice warriors, all that. No actual pictures of the rally. And why is that? Because if they showed you a single picture, they showed you one picture of the rally, everything you've ever thought about white supremacy would instantly just detonate in your skull, because you'd realize, wait a second, I thought this was supposed to be like a huge problem. Like, where are all the white supremacists? I see 10 guys who are talking to each other with a megaphone for some reason. There is no white supremacy. This is all you need. This is all. If anyone ever asks me how I could possibly say white supremacy is dead, I'm going to find a picture of this. Eventually, I'm going to find a picture, and I'm just going to show it to them. I'm going to print out a little wallet size. I'm going to put it in my wallet, and when I'm at protests, I'm going to pull it out and say, here's your white supremacy. 15 guys. You think these 15 basement dwellers are a threat to society? And then I'm going to pull out my other card. It's not going to be a card. It's going to be one of those like accordion that unfolds, like people show you pictures of their kids and just unfolds like 20 pictures. I'm going to pull out one of those. And it's going to have shots of all of the times Antifa is committing violence on people just this weekend. This weekend. I'm going to have a picture of Antifa calling NBC journalist a snitch, calling him a, quote, snitch ass bitch, I think is what he said. And he said, get the F out of here. And then he punched his camera. I'm going to have another card that says, it has a picture of all the Antifa lined up with their signs. And it's going to say in the subtitle, all cops are racist, because that's what Antifa was chanting, as there were black cops like protecting them. Black cops protecting people, saying that all cops are racist. How many levels of irony can you have? Are they trying to set like a record for levels of irony? I would say I'm confused, but I've seen this behavior so much. It's just like, wow, okay. And then I'm going to have another card that shows them throwing bottles at the police and throwing rocks at the police and throwing eggs at Vox journalists, okay? If you go to Vox, they have an article up with all of these videos of Antifa being violent and saying all these things. They sent some little Asian guy. I don't know why you would ever do that. Why would you send the shortest, smallest guy to the protest? But anyway, they sent him. He was getting eggs like thrown by his head. He was dodging eggs like Neo in the Matrix, because the Antifa were throwing objects into the crowd. So I'm going to have this long accordion list of all these pictures from that, and then I have one picture that says white supremacy with a 15 overweight basement dweller guys on it. And then I'm going to make anyone who disagrees with me convince me that this one picture of the 15 basement dwellers is worse than all of that. And if they can do that, if they can convince me logically or rationally that that long list is not as bad as these 15 guys, then I will reopen my mind to the possibility that white supremacy is maybe an issue in America. Until that point, not going to happen. Absolutely not. It's just a joke at this point. So you're not seeing media cover it because they would kill their own narrative if they did. 15 white Wakandans. That's another funny thing, LGBT. All of the Antifa protesters were white. Like every single one of them were white. Yeah, exactly. Oh, son of a gun. I can't scroll up. Black cops protecting white commies yelling, "All cops are racist." Thank you, Red Pill Libertarian, coming in with a great summary of everything that I just said. How much irony could you possibly get? I mean, come on. I'm scrolling up a little bit here. Karen says, there was a study done that 7% of Americans believe chocolate milk comes from brown cows. I bet there are more of those people than actual white supremacists. Yes, there probably are. There are more people who believe that have emotional connections to ancient aliens on the History Channel than there are white supremacists. More people believe that aliens built the pyramids instead of the Egyptians than there are white supremacists. And that just makes me feel great. You know, I feel LGBT news. Those are my Australian mates. I gotta ask chat, since I just finished up my, the general theme of the stream. I got my point across. Maybe we'll open it up to a little more discussion of some other things that I've seen in the week. I'm not sure if anyone in chat is a fan of Stefan Molyneux or Lauren Southern, but they just got done doing their Australian tour. And I gotta say, there's some really good quality talks coming out of that. And I was a little bit surprised. I didn't realize that social justice has saturated Australia so much. You got, LGBT, you guys are pretty socially justiced out down there. I had no idea. They were apparently social justice warriors. So for those who don't know, Stefan Molyneux is just a philosopher. He has a big YouTube channel. He's pretty apolitical, but he doesn't like socialists because his main political idea is what does he call it? It's the libertarian principle of non-aggression. So you don't commit acts of aggression on other people if you're coercing them to do one thing or another. That's it. That's his whole political standpoint. Don't coerce other people into doing things against their will. How disagreeable is that? Lauren Southern, maybe a little more provocative. You know, she's done some more things that are more in the spotlight, I'll say that. So they go there, they get called white supremacists. They get shouted the same exact things that all these Proud Boys and these white supremacists get shouted here. They had protesters trying to knock over buses of people that were coming to see their event. And then they were going to New Zealand to do a talk there and got interrupted. They weren't the venue canceled on them because who knows why, right? People probably threatened to firebomb the place. Who's more dangerous, the guy that's coming to talk or the guy that's threatening to firebomb a theater? I don't know that they threatened to firebomb it, but from the sounds of it, the venue was very super pro free speech, and they were all gung-ho about having these guys in, and they knew exactly who they were, what the controversy was surrounding them. They said, yes, I'd love to have you in. And then the next day they canceled, and the guy was shaking in his boots. So something happened. Yeah, soy overload down there in Australia. I didn't know that they farm soy down there. I didn't know that soy grows in that climate with all that red dust. The black box says, in the past it was rich versus the poor, and now it's white versus black versus female, gay versus straight. Oh, white versus black, male versus female. Yeah, it's intersectionality. That is intersectionality in a nutshell. Pitting all of the individual groups against each other. How many groups do you belong to? How many groups do I belong to? Straight, white, male, American, European. I'm bad at this. I could probably have 10 of them. But the point is, if you and it's going to take them a little while to figure this out, but if you keep going intersectional enough and you keep going through all the individual traits, eventually what you'll get to is this wacky idea called an individual. So, give them some time. I I'm pretty sure the Western culture figured this out about 2,000 years ago, but social justice warriors, they're a little slow, and they didn't read history because they took humanities instead. So give them some time, they'll catch up. Cultural Marxism, that's right. And yeah, Australian media is terrible. New Zealand is hopeless. Yeah, New Zealand is terrible too. Oh wow, look at the time on that. Exactly 1 hour. Well, unless you guys got any more questions, I think that's it for me. I gotta get back to editing my little mini documentary. I'm not giving you an ETA on that because I don't know how long it's gonna take. And every day I see more content that I need to put into this. Literally today I saw so much more content that I need to put into it. So I'm gonna wrap it up and go get working on that for you guys. Just so you know, even when I'm not streaming, I'm working for you guys. So if you haven't already, just follow me on Twitter to see when I'm gonna go live, and you can see me talk trash to people every now and then. Hit me up on Patreon if you feel so inclined. You want to help support me do these documentaries, do these interviews, travel to Portland and stuff like that. The car wash alone is going to cost me like $20. I got so many bugs for driving from 18 hours straight. But anyway, I'll see you guys next week. Hope you enjoy. Jeremy from the Weekly Narrative, out. Maybe, if I can stop the stream. I don't have a producer, so I have to do it myself. All right, see ya.